This is one of our first episodes since our brief break that we took, and I'm excited to be back. And we're going to get into some very important content today, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Without any further ado, let me introduce Stacey Knoell. How's it going, Stacey?
Going pretty good. Going pretty good. Can't complain.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us today. I know that you have a lot of valuable information for our listserv and broader audience. And I know that it's going to be very beneficial to just um, hear you kind of explain some things about the legislator today.
Cool. Yeah. So, hi everybody. I'm Stacey Knoell. I'm the executive director of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission, and this PowerPoint presentation that I gave out at a farm bill meeting out in Nicodemus earlier this year, and I think that's why Justin approached me and said, "Can you do this again for a different audience?" So
Yep.
that's what we're doing. Part of my job as the executive director of the African American Affairs Commission is to pay attention to the legislature. And what I found is that a lot of people don't know how to navigate bills. They don't like the system. There's a lot of information there. People just don't know the information that's there. So I made this PowerPoint presentation to take around to explain to people how the legislature works, essentially. So we will see if all this technology works for us. And we will start. Do you see the screen that says following the Kansas Legislature Lunch and Learn? All right,
Yep.
fantastic.
Perfect.
So that's what we're going to talk about today is just how to navigate the Kansas legislature, how to pay attention to it, how to follow along. So we'll talk about why it's important, how to find you, how to find your people, the people who represent you, how to find a bill, and how to watch the proceedings. Here's one thing that I have found myself telling people a lot is that politicians pay attention to the people who are paying attention to them. In our community, in the Black community, what I hear a lot in terms of voter apathy is, well, why should I pay attention to politics? They don't care about us. But I will tell you that if they knew that their jobs depended on you showing up to either vote for them or vote for someone else, they would pay attention. So if we pay attention to politics, they will pay attention to us. All right. How to find you. There is this website, myvoteinfo.voteks.org. Or if you go to the Kansas Secretary of State page, they have a whole lots of information about voter registration. Voter View is where you would go to find you, or to register to vote, or to potentially update your voting registration if you've moved recently. These are the places where this is one of the websites you would go to in order to do that. So this is the Secretary of State's page, their voter view information. So I go to this page, I looked myself up. Once you put in your first, last name, and date of birth and look yourself up, some of the information you can look up is your polling location. So this is actually my polling location. That's where I go to vote on voting day. Now, in Johnson County, where I live, there are many opportunities to do early voting at various locations. And I know a lot of the larger counties have early voting options. I know that's available in Sedgwick County and Douglas County. I'm not sure about Nicodemus or Hill City, but I can imagine that there are a lot of early vote. Do you happen to know, Justin?
So Hill City and Nicodemus would be in Graham County. I'm actually further west out in Gove, but I'm pretty sure sometimes the counties combine, but I can look that up and I'll provide that information in the description when we post
Right.
this.
Yeah. If there are early voting opportunities. So
Yep.
this will tell us that this is my assigned polling location for where I vote. If you notice down there on this very same screen where it says polling location, there's an option where it says districts and voting history. So on any given person, you can click on, well, not any given person, you look yourself up, you can click on districts and voting history. This is my voting history up until 2022 when I first made this presentation. So if you notice something, I vote a lot. There is an election every year. I have talked to people where they're like, yeah, I vote in presidential. Every time there's a presidential election, I vote. Hang on, there is an election every year. There are even year elections and odd year elections. And when I took this screenshot, this was ahead of in 2022. I should update this screenshot to show that I'm still voting every election. And you can also tell that I am a vote in person early kind of person. I like going early because it avoids the lines and things of that nature. When you look up your districts on this page, This is what it looks like for my districts. So you can see it's got county, it'll tell you I'm the county commissioner, District 5, Kansas State Senate, District 23. Obviously, everyone votes for president and vice president. But then, like up in the upper right corner, it says Kansas representatives. I'm in District 108. My precinct is 20. It'll tell you. So, on any given person, they'll look up. This is how you find out who your people are, right? This is how you find what districts you're in. Because a lot of times people will say, or you might see a sign that says, vote for Snoopy in District 2. And you don't know if you're in Snoopy's district. And so if you go to this, you can see, oh, I'm in District 5, which means I'm not in Snoopy's district. That means I'm in Charlie Brown's district, right? So you can see what district number you're actually in. Unfortunately, this does not tell you the name of your representative. So this is one way you can find your district number. But to find your name, it gets and this is why it gets a little more complicated. So how to find out who they actually are. Once you know the numbers, so for example, I'm in Kansas State Senate 23 and I'm in Kansas House of Representatives 108. I remember those two numbers, Senate 23, House 108. And then I go to this website, which is the Kansas Legislature. So it's kslegislature.org. Okay. kslegislature.org. If you go to it, it looks like this. And over there on the left-hand side, it says find your legislator. You put in their first name and last name. If you Google, I think you have to Google, Kansas House District 108. And if you Google it, you can find that it's Brandon Woodard. So currently he is my House representative. Brandon Woodard is in District 108. And if I type in District 23, I get Rob Olson is currently the seated senator, in District 23. So that's how you find your legislator. Over there on the left-hand side, it says find your legislature. So the next thing people often ask me is, how do you find a bill? Now, here's the cold, hard truth about finding a bill. You need to know the number. And this is sometimes where it gets tricky, is if you don't know the bill number. If anyone's ever talking about a bill, if a person's giving a presentation about a bill, they should know the bill number. So if anyone's ever talking about a bill, say, what bill number is it? And they should be able to tell you the bill. Every time I've ever talked to a group of people about a bill, I've known the bill number. So hopefully if a person knows the bill, they know the bill number. Because again, bill lookup, you put in the number. So this year, this was back in 2023, if you put in SB 118, if you put in a bill and then click look up, SB stands for Senate bill, as opposed to HB, which is House bill. Senate Bill 118 was this: expanding the duties of the Secretary of Health and Environment when investigating maternal deaths to include promoting continuing of care and helping develop performance measures. And it goes on. So this was a bill that was tied to this issue of Black maternal health outcomes. It was introduced, and this page will tell you a lot of information. It gives you the short title. You can click on more and it'll give you more information about the bill. If you look over there where it says current sponsor, original sponsor, and request for introduction by, that's stuff that's new. Because a lot of times people say these bills are showing up. We don't even know who sponsored the bill. We don't know who is the originator of the bill. So now they have this information. You can see that Senator Faust-Godot is the one who requested this bill to be introduced. And that's important, because sometimes people are like, where did this bill even come from? Is it coming from anywhere? Where is it coming from? You will notice also here, bill versions as introduced, where it says documents right in the middle. You can click and you can read the bill in its entirety. Oh, nice. So you can read the entire bill. Oftentimes bills are not that long. They may be 2 pages. Oftentimes bills can be very long. They may be hundreds of pages. But for the most part, a lot of bills are not that complicated. And then here's something that's also very important on this first little screen: bill history. So you can see that it was introduced on January 30th, 2023, and it was referred to the Committee on Public Health and Welfare on January 31st, 2023. So you can see when the bill was introduced and where it was sent. Sometimes bills get introduced and they are not sent anywhere, strangely enough, okay? That means the bill is just dead on arrival. If a bill is sent someplace, it'll be sent to a specific committee. So let's give you a little more information. We'll leave this bill and we'll now look at a different example. of a House Bill 2056, which is a bill, if you see the short title, requiring all advance voting ballots to be returned by 7 p.m. on election day. So this is a different bill. Again, you can read the bill. This is important. You can see bill versions as it was introduced and then as it was amended, because oftentimes bills change in the process. So you can sort of pay attention to how what the bill version is evolving, because every time they change the bill, they have to put it on the website. So you can follow what's going on with the bill all on this KS Ledge website. Going further down, you can see this bill history again that I was talking about. You can see when it was introduced. You can see that it was referred to the Committee on Elections. You can see that on January 26th, it actually got a hearing. Now, this is important because a lot of times if you say, oh, the bill got a hearing, if you wanted to give testimony, watch online, or show up in person, this is the information in terms of when did the bill have a hearing. If a bill ever has a hearing, it'll be on this bill history. So you can see with this bill, it had a hearing on January 26th at 3:30 p.m. in that room. And then it tells you what happens after the hearing. The committee report recommended that the bill be passed as amended by the Committee on Elections. So in that hearing, they made some changes, which you can read as amended by the House Committee. And it was recommended that it passed out. So this is how when people say, how do you follow a bill? kslegislature.org is where you follow the bill. If you know the bill number, and they update this as things change with bills, this information gets updated. If it gets changed, if the bill, how it's written gets changes, they update it. If the bills move around different committees, if they have hearings, if it makes it out here and there, they update this version history. So when you say, how do you follow a bill? This is where you follow the bill. kslegislature.org is where you follow the bill.
Perfect.
Here's another thing that has, oh, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do actually, real quick. So if there's no hearing, does that mean the bill's dead on arrival?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And then
And that
I
happens.
also remember, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Ask your question.
Yeah, and I think that also up in the search, because I tried to look up a bill a couple years ago, or was it 2022 or 23, and you can search it. I'm pretty sure you can like keyword search it, and pretty sure to pull up the bill or something similar to that. So if you don't
That
know the
makes
number,
sense.
I think you can still get to it. Yeah.
Yes. But you raise a very good point, because bills can be introduced and they don't even get a hearing. So it's like dead on arrival. Bills can be introduced and can get a hearing, and then they don't what's called work the bill, which means you can have a hearing and they don't take a vote as to whether or not the bill passes out. In which case the bill is still dead, even after getting a hearing. This particular bill that we're looking at, HB 2056, they passed it, right? So you can see that they recommend it being passed. So a bill may get out of, it may have a hearing, it may pass out of committee, but that doesn't mean, that just means it got out of committee. Because then it has the opportunity to go to the floor, is what they call it. And the phrasing they say is the bill above the line or below the line? Because there will be a list of bills, and then there is a literal line in the list. Bills that are above the line make it to the floor for debate and maybe signing. Bills below the line are not brought to the floor, be the House or the Senate floor. And bills on any given day might be above the line or below the line. They might move up or down above the line. That decision is made by leadership. Senate and House leadership decides what bills are above or below the line. A bill may get out of committee and never make it above the line, which means it never makes it to the floor. If a bill is above the line and gets to the floor, it still may die on the floor. Right? So for a bill to get passed, it takes a lot. It's actually a kind of a complicated process. But I know I'm going to keep an eye on the time and keep it trucking. Here's something that is, I believe, came out of COVID, which I think it was a necessity, but I think it's here to stay, is this notion of how to watch the proceedings. So if for you, if you live in Nicodemus and you can't make it all the way back to Topeka to do something with a bill, or if I'm in Olathe and can't make it back, Kansas Legislature has a YouTube page. So this KS Legislature has a YouTube page. And I think this is the best thing that possibly could have come out of COVID, where you can find, so you can see here on this screen, Senate Public Health and Welfare, It'll tell you there was a committee coming up, House and local government, legislative modernization, state taxation and assessment. So you can know what's coming, what committee is having a hearing, and you can watch it. More importantly, if you submit testimony, you can provide testimony virtually. So you could
Oh,
be
wow.
a Nicodemus. You could be a Nicodemus if you, and we'll talk about how to submit testimony. You could be a Nicodemus and still attend and even provide testimony in these committee hearings, which is
Nice.
revolutionary, right? You don't have to make
Yeah.
the 6-hour drive in just for a 15-minute hearing. So if you go to their website, let me continue to click on your way through. All these hearings, they'll have cameras, like, and then they even have cameras for the Senate and chamber, like they have them set up, and so you can watch a debate. Once, if a bill makes it to the floor, you can watch the entire debate. And so here you can see that they had them from February 3rd, February 6th, February 7th, February 8th, right? Like every day that they're in session, they're recording, and they're all out on YouTube. So if something crazy happened on February 3rd, you can go back and say, well, what happened? Who said what? How does that, what's reported in the news? What actually happened? So this is actually a wonderful thing. So now I did talk about this notion of submitting testimony. Let's go over briefly how to do that. Back on this page, let's say this is SB 208, Senate Bill 208. The deal also dealt with remote ballot boxes. If you see down there, you can see that it was referred to the Committee on Federal and State Affairs. If you click on that, because that's the committee it goes to. And this is where sometimes it gets in the weeds, but here it is. So this is the Committee on State Affairs. If you go to committee documents, oh, by the way, you can see bills, resolution, and appointments. You can see all the bills that have been referred to the State Committee on Federal and State Affairs. So you can see all the bills that are going through. You can see who's on that committee. You can see the chair, Senator Mike Thompson. There's a vice chair, Rick Cluse. The ranking minority member is Senator Faust Godot, and all the members who are on that particular committee. So you can see who's on the committee. So if you wanted to write the members of the committee, you can see who's there. If you wanted to say, hey, please hear this bill, you'd write the chair, because the chair is the one who's making the decision. Under committee documents, and here's the unfortunate thing, you have to go to the Comfrey rules. It would be wonderful if every committee had the same rules and that there was just one way to do it. But of course, that's not how it works. One committee says that if you have testimony, it needs to be in 24 hours in advance. Another committee may say it has to be in 48 hours in advance. One committee might say you need a cover sheet, and the other committee might say you need to print off copies for everybody. Like it would be wonderful if every committee had the same rules. Unfortunately, that's not the case. You'd have to check on what the rules are. So you can see that for this one, they say, and any questions would go to this committee assistant. For this one, they are like, no cover sheet required, but if you're writing testimony, you need to have the date, the bill number, your name. And then they, state like, start Chairman Thompson and members of the committee, and then you have the text. Here's something that's important, and they do put it on here. Testimony is public record, and it will be on the Kansas legislative site. So people can go and read what you've submitted for testimony. So make sure you don't cuss people out. Right. Unless you want that as a permanent record. I mean, sometimes maybe that's necessary. Maybe that's what you need.
I'm sure some people do want that.
There are days. So when you provide testimony, here's the thing that I tell people. Think of providing testimony. Don't get freaked out about it. Consider it like you're just writing an email, right? Tell your story. It doesn't have to be long. I have seen testimony that, some organization has put, it's like a booklet, but I've also seen testimony from everyday people who are just writing, this is important to me because this is how it impacts my family. It could be 3 paragraphs. It does not have to be long. If you are using data, make sure you back it up. Although anecdotes are fine. And so just write it like it's an email. If you are going to provide testimony in person, or if you're going to show up via web services, then try not to just read it, because they have the written testimony. So they'd rather you not just stand there and read testimony. That's really where it's an opportunity to talk from your heart. This is why this is important to me. If it's a bill on Black maternal health, I've given plenty of testimony on bills on Black maternal health. As a Black woman who's given birth in Kansas, this is something that's important to me. So I can just talk about my experiences, or as a person who votes in Kansas, I can talk about my experience voting. So if it's something that, if you're moved enough to provide testimony, share your story as to why you're moved enough to provide testimony. Consider the tone. It's persuasive, not argumentative. Again, sometimes there are bills where I'd like to go up there and just like wag my finger, but that's just not helpful, right? So
Right.
get to the point, stick to the point. That's what I tell people. So my
Stacey,
final, yeah.
Real quick before you move on,
Sure.
for the data, you said back up your data. What is an example of that? Like citing a source, or what do you mean? Like,
Yes,
what's a
if you've got some written testimony and you're citing a source, think of it just like if you're writing a research paper, put your source at the bottom, right? You can't just stand there and say, 53% of all statistics are made up on the spot, right? You got to back it up with something, but don't feel like you have to bring data. That's what I say about your personal story is enough. Me telling stories about giving birth as a Black woman in Kansas, that's important. Any bill that passes that deals with Black maternal health potentially impacts me. So I don't need data. I'm the data.
Right.
Here is my final thoughts. In this job and in talking with a lot of people in our community, I have come to the belief fundamentally that people do not understand how power works. I truly believe that people do not understand it, and they've abdicated a lot of their power. It is a very popular thing to do, not only in the Black community, but writ large, to complain about politicians and to complain about politics and to say, they do that, they do this, they don't care about us. They're just out for money. They. And the first thing I say is, did you vote? And a lot of times people are like, no, I don't vote. Swing back to where we started from. Representative democracy depends on everybody participating, and the elected officials ultimately answer to the people, right? If you have crappy politicians representing you, did you vote against them? Did you find someone else to run?
Yep.
And let's say you're stuck with bad representation. Are you holding that person accountable? Are you showing up to that city council, board, city, school board, House of Representatives? Are you showing up and saying, hey, maybe I didn't vote for you, but you're supposed to be representing us in our best interest? Because here's what I see. I see a lot of apathy. I see a lot of people who've just given up, which means that a very small number of people are actually electing the people who are representing us. And
Wow.
if they are not, so if everyone has got to vote. I can't stress that enough. I cannot stress that enough. And politicians pay attention to the people who pay attention to them. I have run for office before. I've run for state senate before. And so here's the thing that I tell people: as a campaigns know down to the neighborhood,
Wow.
who's down to like a 4-block radius. We can tell. I can't tell who people are voting for. Actually, no, by precinct, you can tell who's winning. I can't tell any individual thing who people are voting for, but I can also tell if people are voting. And if there's a precinct where there's 100 people, but only 8 of them vote,
Wow.
no campaign is going to spend money in that precinct, because that's throwing money away. Why would I talk to a bunch of people who I know are not going to vote? But if there's a precinct where 92 people vote, okay, well, I'm gonna go talk to that, because that's 92 people who potentially going to vote for me. If I'm going to spend resources, time, energy, and effort, they're going to talk to the populations that they know are going to vote. And if our population does not vote regularly, it is a bad use of money, resources, and time to try to persuade them to vote. So we're kind of stuck in this spiral, right? Where if Black people don't vote, campaigns don't reach out to them. If campaigns don't reach out to them, Black people feel like the campaign doesn't care, so they don't vote. And if they don't vote, then campaigns don't reach out to them. And if the campaigns don't reach out, then people don't feel like the campaigns care and they don't vote. So we're stuck in this spiral. And every time I get a chance, I tell people they need to vote. And then they need to show up and be loud. I know Senator Falscadeau is always like, can people just show up? Because it is, if showing up is over half the battle, just showing up and holding people accountable. So as much as it is popular to just complain about politicians, vote for different politicians.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the batch of politicians that are out there, hang on now, run for office, right?
Yeah.
Like
That
if I
makes
looked
sense.
at people who were representing me and I said, you know what, I think I have a shot at this. And so I ran for office. Right? If we want people who have our best interests at heart, find the people who need to run for office and help them run for office, and then vote for them continuously. So what I tell people is the best way to get started is to quit talking and just start doing, right? Walt Disney said it. He was pretty successful. Yeah, it's to just start doing. And so the lowest hurdle is voting. The absolute lowest hurdle is voting. That's it. That's pretty much my presentation. I do have one commercial. We do have some more of these leadership brunches coming up that my
Nice.
office, American Affairs Commission, is doing and co-hosting with the Kansas Black Leadership Council. So we have one a month coming up in Kansas City, Kansas, Manhattan, and Topeka. So if you go out to kansasblc.org under brunch, you can register. It's free. It's a free thing. Come have some breakfast with us, hear about, and we'll talk about civic engagement. The whole focus is on civic engagement, getting involved, voting, and specifically boards and commissions, because that's some way that people can get involved that does not involve running for office. So that's a whole different PowerPoint presentation.
Maybe we'll get you next time for that one.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's the long and short of it. And I know I went through that pretty quickly, but if this is recorded, people can back up and push pause and go to the websites and look up things. KSLegislature.org is where everything is housed. And it can be confusing only because to a certain extent, you need to know the bill number. And it also can be confusing because they go very fast, right? That now it's becoming the mode of operating where they may announce on Monday that there's going to be a hearing on Wednesday. But remember, I said some committees say you need to have testimony in 24 hours in advance. So by the time you hear that there's going to be a hearing, you may only have 5, like, oh no, I have to write testimony because it has to be in 24 hours in advance in order to make it to the hearing on Wednesday. So that is that's a people operational trap that sometimes we fall into, or we just don't know about the hearings fast enough. But if a hearing, it is all on the website. If a hearing is scheduled, it'll be on the website.
Is there any way to get like advanced knowledge on like a topic that you're passionate about or that directly affects you? Is there a way that
you'd have to just watch
outside of you just have to be paying attention?
You just have to be paying attention. I mean, what I will say is that website does update daily. So if you know, for example, if that House bill talking about ballot boxes, if you know it's been introduced, then you know I got to check in.
Yeah.
Got a hearing. When's the hearing? Now I need to start writing testimony. Honestly, there are times as soon as the bill is introduced, I write the testimony because I don't know when the hearing's going to happen. So that the testimony is ready to go as soon as I find out, I can just send it. Right. So if you know, I think that's probably, if you know that there's a topic or if you know that there's a bill that you feel strongly about, write the testimony so that it's ready. Stay ready. You don't have to get ready. Isn't that what they say?
Right. Yep. Stay ready. Yes. Cool. So I have about 3 or 4 links that I will post in the description when we put this up. Then I will also make sure that this is provided for our listeners to review and go back through, because I think that will be very valuable, especially some of the technical aspects of looking up the bills and seeing who's on it and who produced it. And I think this will be very valuable. And I appreciate you, Stacey, just for essentially helping us get the power back. I know that you hit it on the head when you said that we kind of relinquish some of our power by not being active and not participating. And I think that some of that is because of ignorance. We maybe don't know how to,
And I think this is a great step for some of those people. And also, I think that it will help people to, spark that flame to be involved and to actually realize that, we do matter as individuals and as a collective. So, again, thank you for taking time out your, I'm sure, extra busy day to,
No,
provide some info for us.
this is my bread and butter, talking about how to get my community more involved. And honestly, this is an election year, and the presidential level has gotten a lot of attention
Right.
for a lot of reasons. But to understand that the president, when it comes down to it, doesn't have really that much of an impact on our day-to-day life, but it's like those down ballot. It is the House and the Senate. It is the city councils, the school boards, all the elections that start to get more, they call them local. The closer you get to where you live, those elections have a huge impact on our day-to-day life, right? The city council is the one who's figuring out, are they going to get potholes fixed in your street? Are they going to put sidewalks between your house and the school, right? It's that school board that's talking about what is the curriculum, what history gets taught, right? So I know that those are some issues that are important to our community. And so paying attention to the down ballot races, as they call them, are very important. And again, that's an entire another PowerPoint presentation that if you want to have me on next week, I will be glad to talk about that.
Definitely. We are actually going through a series of, I guess, I don't know how to term it, but it's all about politics, I guess. So pretty soon we'll have someone on talking specifically about county committees. And I know that definitely affects our rural community and members of our organization for sure.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, any information that will help, I'll be hitting you up. So don't worry.
You got it.
Yep. Cool. And I guess we can wrap it up. So again, we'll have, can people reach out directly to you for questions and things like that? Or
sure. Stacey.Knoell@KAAAC.gov. Yeah. And
Perfect.
this actually, honestly, and I can send you a link because I have this PowerPoint presentation. I did it as a part of one of my lunch and learns. And KAAAC also has a YouTube page where I have put out explainers on how to navigate ballots and how to navigate the legislature. So I've done explainers every once in a while. So yeah, I can link it.
Perfect. That'll be great. And we'll put those in the description too.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Without any more time being ate up, and we're just going to go ahead and end this. So thank you guys for viewing us, tuning in, and we'll be coming at you guys very soon. Thanks, Stacey.
Thanks.
Let me stop.